Good afternoon, welcome everybody.
We don't have to turn it on yet.
Front table
They're
here.
going to talk.
Tom Ellis from Brown and Brown. Marty McLean from Infrastructure. Everybody knows Tom Blatt.
Brian
Ross
Cross.
Bobby Sims. And Trish Sure will be taking minutes.
Just push this.
So we get rolling. Brian's going to start. Please follow your questions and answers until he's done. We don't have any interruptions. I appreciate it. And again, make sure your phones are on silent or powered on. Thank you.
I don't know, can everybody hear me like this, or
Yeah.
better like this?
Either way.
Better like this? Okay. All right, as you know, my name is Brian Cross, I represent the Glades, and working on the Irma claim. I'll provide a brief update. Mr. McLean, the project manager from Envirostruct, will be the one that's going to go over some more of the substantive issues that we've been dealing with scheduling, with the county on the 50-50 rule, with the issues of what the county is requiring in terms of allowing us to put this place back together to meet the new codes, to get CO, what he's been able to negotiate with some contractors out here that are going to step forward at no cost on some of the issues, or minimus cost to put in, laminate flooring in certain areas, because you have to have flooring in the bathroom before you can get a CO. Although we know that you guys are not going to live with laminate flooring forever, it's something that they'll be able to put in to try and get a stopgap measure so the county can come through and check the box and say, yes, you have flooring in there, your tub's hooked up. Issues on hot water here, which is the subject of this memo that I'm going to pass out. They're making some more copies of it right now at the clubhouse. I didn't realize that we would have more than 100 and something people here. The claim, and Mr. Sims can attest to the fact, I know it is slow, I know it's causing a lot of angst, and there's a lot of suffering going on out in the community. I know that me telling you that does absolutely no difference to change the fact that there was 20-mile-an-hour winds last week and some of you had water coming into your units. My tarp blew off my house and my ceiling in my garage got totally soaked where it wasn't totally soaked before. I still have some of the same issues that you guys do. I know how uncomfortable and miserable it is. My wife yells at me every day about the mold that's around my skylights and how it's bad for our kids, but trying to find a roofer to come out and give me a quote on a single-family house is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. I know there'll be some frustration as to the schedule that was put out in the past couple weeks versus some of the roofs that have been moved off of that schedule due to the fact that our insurance company is in dispute with what our public adjuster claims as what needs to be a full roof replacement versus a temporary patch or a repair job. Some they're approving the flat, but they're not approving a reshingle or vice versa. That's all part of the claim and all part of the process that we go through. I mean, I know it's been 6 months or so since the storm came through, but in terms of a claim, it's moving at lightning speed. I mean, I know it's funny. Mr. Sims has been doing this longer than I think I've been alive. He'll tell you that a typical building, a single building on an insurance claim is 60 to 90 days before the insurance company even gets out, does their inspections, and provides you with the scope. Then you got to argue back and say, no, that's not enough, it's this much. We're talking in 6 months, we should have in the next, I was told now as an updated date, the first week of April, we should have our scope fully from the insurance company, their building consultant. Mr. Sims and I have been putting pressure on them. They brought out another adjuster to assist Mr. Short. That's who you've seen out here in the past week, going through exteriors and re-looking at roofs, doing a second and third inspections on roofs that we're disputing. One of the things on a side note that I want to mention that Todd's going to send an email out to, Bobby has come across in the field several air conditioners that have been replaced recently based on the date that's put on them. But we at the office, or your team at the office, and we at your claims team, we have no records of you guys actually paying to put that AC unit back on. So there's a few. So please make sure that if you spent the money to put the HVAC system back on or put a new one on because it was damaged, get those receipts into Todd in the office so we can get them submitted so we can get you reimbursed. Now, scheduling-wise, county-wise, I'm going to let Marty go through some of that issue because he and I have had I don't know, 2 or 3 in-person meetings with the fire code, with the building official, with the FEMA building official from the Collier County liaison, and with 3 or 4 people that are right below the county manager. The county has been extremely pliable with us. They're doing things and allowing things that, if they wanted to be hard-nosed, no offense, but if we were in the city of Naples, we'd be dealing with a little tougher problem on some of this stuff. And it really boils down to the FEMA 50-50 rule. I mean, I know I keep saying that, and to a lot of you, it's, oh yeah, that's an excuse, Brian, that's why it's taking so long. But it is a real problem. I mean, I can read you the email from the county official telling me they are freaking out about this, and they cannot run the risk of being audited by FEMA and being sanctioned a year or 2 down the road by allowing you guys to go this far. The other big concern, as I expressed before, is we're trying to, through bulk pricing, through cutting deals with contractors by offering them some incentive by saying, hey, when you're in these gutted units, why don't you throw in some real cheap covered, was it Formica or the cabinets, pressed wood, whatever it is that we can get, because you have to have cabinets in there, or the county won't provide a CO. And we can't leave some units without cabinets, even though they're unit owner responsibility under the statute, because then if one owner goes in and puts a nice super remodel on, that sucks up the amount of money that the other 3 unit owners have in there, and you're going to have this much money to rebuild your unit. So what we're trying to do is get some incentive by getting some contractors in, and some of the cabinet people have met with some of you guys, that says, hey, with the idea that you're going to allow us to redo your cabinets and your kitchen to whatever, 2018 style that you like, we will work with the general contractor and stage some quote-unquote real cabinets, but they're really temporary cabinets at no cost, so the county can come in and say, yep, got cabinets. The purpose of that is we got to hit and check off the boxes to get the CO. Once that's closed, the FEMA rule goes out the window. All the repairs that needed to be done and put back in the place that it was are done. Then all of you at a 4-plex, 6-plex, or 8-plex have the full 50% value of your building to use your own insurance proceeds or your own rebuild money to go do whatever you want, versus how much is already being eaten up of that 50% by the roofs and all the drywall and all the association responsibility. Now, one of the questions that I know a lot of you have is, what's my unit going to look like when his team's done, which is what I have to do? Now, in terms of coordinating and scheduling, we've tried to come up with a system that takes as much of it as we can onto the shoulders of the association while still operating within the guidelines of 718. For example, hot water heaters. A lot of them are unhooked and unconnected and sitting in the units that were gutted. They were working before the storm. We assume and hope that they are still working. They didn't get fried by a surge. If they are, and they're operable, rather than redo the drywall, get there, and then say, all right, unit owner, where are you? We need you to call a plumber. And a lot of you guys will be back up north. We've negotiated a bulk pricing with a plumber to come in, an electrician and a plumber. Even though the hot water heater is under Chapter 718, the association is not allowed to pay to put those back in. The unit owner has to do it. They're going to do it at $125 as long as you have a hot water heater there, and that'll just be billed to the owners, because that's one of the key issues to get a CO. You have to have hot water, believe it or not. You can't just have water, it has to be hot. Appliances do not have to be installed for your CO. So your appliances, we just have to have the hookups, which is what Marty's team will have, the electricity run by code, they're capped, ready. So when you get your appliances delivered or installed or taken out of storage, wherever they are, that'll be ready to be put back in. I'm going to pass around, and I'll start in a few seconds. Some of them are two-sided, so don't worry if you didn't get 2 pages. There should be enough for everybody. If you don't have substantial damage to your unit on the interior, meaning it's not pretty much gutted, you don't need one of these. So if you don't have a lot of damage, go ahead and just take one and pass them down. Go ahead and pass it along. But this is a memo that my firm wrote that kind of explains to you guys what the association has to do under Florida law and what the unit owner
Back.
has to do in terms of 718, which dictates who's got to repair or replace what when you have a hurricane. It's not your typical event where an association pipe breaks and then they have to fix the drywall and whatever else damage. Here, nobody was at fault in this event. Well, maybe God, I guess, but nobody in this room. So the statute says, when there's a casualty, this is what the insurance policy covers, this is what they put back, this is what the association has hired the contractor to come back and put back into the unit. Here's
Bill,
another
you can
stack
give
of
them to
them.
Brian.
I'll start some in the back of the room.
It's really good, isn't it? I had no idea about the appointments.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know they had the appointments up to this, so it didn't make any sense.
So I've tried to take what is a really complicated, convoluted statute written by a bunch of smart lawyers in Tallahassee that think that they give practical advice and simplify it into how you guys can see who's going to do what. But the brief summary of it is the association is going to take care of your roof, your drywall, your bathroom tub, your bathroom sink, the linoleum floor. They're going to arrange for the hot water heater to be connected unless you guys have somebody that you're going to get it done, I doubt, at a better price because you got to deal with the permit, the electrical, and the plumber. So 125 is much cheaper than what it will be. Personal property within the unit, obviously, furniture, appliances, your kitchen cabinets are going to be your end product kitchen cabinets. That's all stuff that will be paid for by, hopefully, your insurance company, if you have insurance on the interior units for these damages. Floor, wall, ceiling covers, paint, carpet, wallpaper. That's all on the association unit owner to replace. Electrical fixtures, by statute, your light switches. Now the electricity to code through your wall, capped at your drywall, will be done by the association. Same thing with your HVAC, your plumbing, your ductwork. That will all be done by the association. But the actual light switch, the actual fan, the light in your bedroom, if you had a ceiling light or whatever it is that you want to put in, that will be capped to where it was to the best possible, but the final wall scones, light fixtures will actually be done. Thanks, my friend. I mentioned hot water heaters, appliances, and water filters. Those are all individual unit owners. Built-in cabinets and countertops, like I said, rather than hold up. Because COs go by building. And we're trying to avoid the scenario where one owner either is trying to sell their place, didn't have insurance, had a mortgage, is going to walk away from it being damaged, and that then holds up the other 3 unit owners in a building from ever being able to get back in their unit. So what we're trying to do, like I said with the kitchen cabinets, by getting the county to accept and turn a blind eye on some of the things that we're putting in to kind of do us a favor based on the emergency nature and the systemic nature that we have out here, is stage some temporary things, use some materials that aren't expensive, that we can get to pass by so we can get people in together. We don't want one unit owner being pitchforked because the other 3 people can't get back in, and we don't want 1 or 2 unit owners all of a sudden causing me to have to tell you, I'm sorry, you're going to need to move out, we have to tear your building down because you've exceeded the 50%. It is a real possibility. I don't put it as likely because Marty's team has gone through and priced out every single building. I've gotten in contact with a very good property appraiser who I know, who's worked as an expert witness and done some appraisals for me in litigation. Working on getting a final, preliminary / final list from Marty in the county. I clarified what the county is allowing the appraiser to assume and put back in, because the county doesn't have records of exactly, in all your scenarios, what was in your unit prior to the damage, so they don't know what we have to exactly put back in order to comply with the FEMA 50%. I can tell you the county has made it completely clear to me that unless they are gun to their head and there's nothing that they can do under any scenario, they're going to do everything within their possibility to work with us on anything and everything to avoid those issues becoming an issue. And it is a handful of buildings. I mean, the property appraisers have some of these fourplexes all at $82,500. We know they're worth more than that for sure in today's environment, real estate environment. And if they've been improved with some, granite countertops, modern appliances, new electrical, whatever, they're worth 130, 120, 130, 140, some of the ones in there. I have given direction to the appraiser, with the county's blessing, that I'd like them to assume that the buildings that we need to appraise based on how badly they were damaged, to be pretty lenient in what they assume how nice those units were before it was done, which is going to then give this guy a bigger chunk to work with in terms of leaving you all with a bigger chunk to work with to get your units redone. In terms of the claim, I'll just update you briefly because it's your claim. It's not my claim. It's not the board's claim. It belongs to you guys. You pay the premiums. We did get the advance of the $4 million. We're expecting, we still have about another $1 million that's owed to Velocity under the remediation bills that they had, which were north of $5 million. They settled on a figure around 2.1. We've received some information from our insurance company's adjuster that they see no issue with getting that amount approved and paid, which is good because we only owe Velocity under the contract that we drafted, whatever our insurance company approves. And there will be some additional funds in there because we've had to do some additional temporary work with the windstorm we just had last week, which will be supplemented and requested. Regarding the roofs, we've gotten agreement on a good chunk of them. There still are a whole bunch, I would say, that are, well, not a whole bunch compared to the whole claim, that we're at a full replacement, they're in repair. They haven't made their final decision, so I can't comment on what the adjuster says. What I'm told is that by, as of an hour ago, the first week in April, he intends to submit to me a full scope on all 200-something buildings that have damage with exterior, interior, roofing, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, drywall, anything and everything for the full claim as what they say is an amount that's undisputed. Now, there'll still be disputed amounts that we will either work through in the litigation process or through the appraisal process. I say that it's going fast. I know it doesn't feel like it is. They're replacing roofs already. So far, the replacements have gone off pretty well. There is some additional aspects of the roofing that when they got up there, either some of the clips that had been put in, the hurricane clips and straps, either weren't sufficiently put in, or they didn't withstand the force of this hurricane, or they were older roofs and they didn't have the new code. The county code office is requiring us to put in all new strapping, and I'll let Marty go through the technicals on that issue. But that is all covered by your law and ordinance policy, so it will be added as part of the supplemental claim. In terms of the Velocity bill, we are accounting for a bill that they didn't pay a subcontractor, which we're going to deduct off of what we pay them that we receive from our insurance company. We're also going through and where we come across with EnviroStruct, where they're keeping track of where a bathtub is missing or it's completely destroyed because when they took out the drywall, they cracked it, destroyed it. We're going to get bulk pricing on those bathtubs, and I'm going to reduce what we pay them there and account for what it is. I'm going to keep a chunk of money back, Blades is, before we finalize the Velocity to make sure that any of the damage that they cause within your units is accounted for so they don't walk off with us then having to use our insurance proceeds to buy a bathtub that they smash. Now, last thing I'll touch on, and I'll take a few questions because I know Marty has a lot, and I tend to jump around and cover everyone's subject matter and he gets mad at me. The Velocity. I know that there's some frustration that they took out some more drywall than they needed to, or that they damaged my sink, or they broke this. That happens in every one of these jobs. I can tell you in 100% honesty, that the work they did is better than the other 4 big communities I had that had, 50 to 100 units fully demolition. We had rampant theft in one community with one. We had one where they gutted entire units that didn't even have a drop of water and also destroyed every single thing, looking with a sledgehammer in other communities. Now, where they're lacking is they didn't do a very good job of documenting exactly what they did, and that's why they're having such a fight with our insurance company in order to get repaid. Again, it's no sweat off our back, because our contract that we got them to sign was, if you can't prove that it was necessary and it had to be done to the extent that our insurance company wants to pay you, then you're SOL, I'm sorry. So, timing-wise, schedule-wise, that's Mr. McLean. I can tell you that I'm not just up here to sing praises. I think the board did a very good job. I think we have a great team on our Friday construction management meetings in terms of having full transparency to where we're trying to get information updated and trying to get it out to everybody. I know that there are members that are frustrated. I've seen some emails today with the association manager. He's doing a horrible job running the project, or, what's Key's claim to? Key's claims doesn't rebuild roofs. Todd's a bright guy and he's smart, but he has this much ability to have any impact or control on how fast this project can be put back together. The only thing that you can do when you have something this big is bring in somebody to help you with the insurance claim and legal, and then make sure you have a good general contractor and a good GC. The upfront work that these guys did in terms of documenting booklets like this per building on all of the cost expenditures towards the FEMA, all the repairs and everything, knowing exactly where they are, working with the county is invaluable. Most contractors would have come in and just said, all right, let me get my hammer, I'm turning loose, let me just start building stuff. And they would have said, hey, that's between you guys, your insurance company, and the county about, we don't negotiate and try and work through FEMA. We don't run valuation calculations and work with property, real estate appraisers and your legal to try and make sure the unit owners aren't there, because they're hired by the association. The association goes and fixes stuff, and if it leaves unit owners with this much money, hey, sorry, the association, if the statute says that you got to rebuild your unit, sorry about the FEMA rule, but that's between you guys. I guess you're going to have to keep your Formica cabinets for, another year. They've done a very good job at that. The board wouldn't have selected Firestruck had the board and I not vetted them, talked with references, based on the project and how fast they're moving, getting roofers available to do flat work roof, which most of them won't even take that type of roofing right now because they're focused on tile roofs because it's more profitable and it's an easier job to do. So the less profitable, less desirable shingle roof, a lot of the roofers are not even touching it. I mean, I know it's difficult. I can't keep echoing it. If you have some specific questions as to what I've said, if not, I would suggest that we let Marty go through some of what he has because he may answer more of it and help us speed along. Thank you all.
I take it there's no question. I just have a quick one. Where are we with lanai cages? You haven't mentioned it.
I hadn't because I was trying to avoid it. Lanai is the same story. Right now, under the pass claim, with the same policy and the same statute and the same insurance company, we were successful, albeit through an appraisal process and then a lawsuit, to get payment for the lanai and screen closures. We have that issue in the statute. As of an hour ago, with Mr. Short, who's the field adjuster around here for the insurance company, he has not been given the authority to write any monies to be allocated to pay for these green enclosures and lanais under the association's policy. We believe, and I'm pretty confident, because like I said last time, I talked to the guy that wrote the statute, that whether it be because they are trying to hold a few arrows in their quiver back for when we get to this delta where we say it's $10, they say it's $7 because we need $2 for lanais and another $1 for roof, there's a chance that they're waiting on that lanai enclosure issue as a type of settlement thing. They can say, all right, if we resolve the claim, we'll throw in X dollars for that component. That's speculation on my part. It could be because they want to test the issue and I'm gonna have to take it to court and have a judge determine under our declaration, under the DVPR, under 718, which is the Florida statute, that this insurance does cover that lanai enclosures. Or it could be because we're gonna bow out appraisal. The good thing is that although these things easily can take 2 to 3, sometimes 4 or 5 years to get done, this one's not anywhere near that track record. We're going to be well through this claim in the next couple months. Now, is that 60%, 40%, or 80%? I don't know, because again, so far I have a check for $4 million that came in a FedEx envelope without a piece of paper telling me what it's for. I have talked to Mr. Short again today, and he said that within his system, based on the estimates that he is writing, he has now gotten past our full $4.6 million deductible. He's got it by building, the 200 buildings. He's got the EMS velocity emergency temporary money by building, and he's got everything that accounts for the full 4.6 deductible plus the $4 million advance. So every dollar that we're writing and submitting now, that he's writing and submitting now, is just a dollar that will come to the association. Rather than sit back and wait for them to tell me there's nothing on there for lanais, Mr. Sims has been out here all week going through, looking at exteriors, looking at roofs, and marking down lanais, addresses, and enclosures. They are working to put together a scope with a claim to submit for the full cost to totally replace all of the damaged lanais and enclosures. That'll be part of our claim. Until that then gets rejected, we don't know if they're going to budge. They may just be leaving that, waiting for us to see how much we say it is, and then they may throw that in, or they may say, all right, we'll pay 70% of it. But we don't believe these ones have to be replaced. We think you can just, re-pull them or re-screen them. The reason why I say this thing's moving faster is because if we get 50, 60, 70% through this claim, rather than do an appraisal process like we did last time on the windows that took forever because the umpire who ruled on the place had to come out and inspect every single window and slider, and then he had to get his expert out and then do all their stuff. If we can agree on 70% of the roofs, then we don't have to appraise that portion of the claim. We can limit what we're battling on through the appraisal process, so there's less subject matter that has to be covered in an appraisal, which expedites how fast the appraiser comes back and gives you guys the binding number. Sir?
My condo policy has a loss assessment coverage.
Yes, sir.
There's a certain limitation as far as our policy goes, it's a year to submit a claim.
It's a year, yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It's not until the assessment actually happens. Because right now you don't have a loss assessment to submit to your carrier.
When do you think that's going to be?
Dominic and I talked about that a few minutes ago. We know how much everyone's suffering. We don't want to run out and special assess for 2 reasons. Number one, we have funds that we've already received from our insurance company that we can use to pay Envirostruct to get stuff done. And number two, the last thing you guys want to be doing is mailing a check to the Glades when you can't be in your unit and you're already ready to just take a pitchfork to us. And third, we don't want to run out and stick a special assessment because until I know what the insurance company tells me, hopefully in the next few weeks, about how much they're going to pay us, and then until I know how we can allocate what we have by section in reserves for roofs to contribute towards the deductible or towards minimizing a potential special assessment, I don't know what it is. We don't want to go out and do a $1,000 special assessment and then say, oh, well, we need another $1,000. We are waiting until we use the funds that we receive, get the additional advance and additional payments of undisputed amounts of money, scheduling the crews as fast as possible, working with vendors to pay as we move along. And when and if, and that's my goal here, if we see that there is a delta and a shortfall based on reserves, based on what the insurance company's paid, based on the estimates and the scope written by Keys and what we can get covered, then we'll have a time frame, but probably not for months and months, about advising the community or the board that, hey, and we'll work with Dominic and the financial committee. We're going to go through it by section. We're going to look at what they have per building, per reserves, for roofs, versus what's been paid based on the insurance adjuster's claim, versus what he believes his percentage or likelihood of getting additional ones covered during the appraisal process. And at that point, probably in the next 60 days, we should be able to have like either a worst case scenario for an assessment or a range. But like I said, our goal is to kick that can down the road or off the road forever if we can. Yes, ma'am.
Back to the lanai, I was wondering, does the Glades have a credit record of each and every lanai that was damaged?
The Glades,
Yes.
the public adjusters have gone through and have taken photos and has noted, based on exterior inspections, what lanais have been damaged. But if you have concern, you're welcome to send an email into the management office to say, hey, I just want to make sure that you know that my lanai was damaged. I have these photos for you, or whatever it is. Can't hurt.
I
Sir.
have one little question on your second paragraph where it said, the drywall unit, the bathroom fixtures such as bathtubs and toilets, and I think you said sinks. Did you say sinks?
Right, Marty?
I'll talk about it.
Yeah, I'm going to let Marty cover it. It's not crystal clear because it's a fixture, but it's also personal property because the sink belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the association. If they're there, I'll let Marty cover exactly what that is. So hold off on the sink question until Marty touches it. Sir?
You have gutters and downspouts, and the roof is replaced, will they be replaced?
Yes. Yes. Ma'am?
How bad would you order the roof? The downspout just can't walk with the wind. Then I went up. Repeat the question.
She said how much of the downspouts will we replace because part of her blew off. Again, construction-related components I'm going to let Marty touch on. So if it's related to a construction, what we're going to do, hold that question for Marty. Ma'am?
I submitted my claim to the insurance company for the springs on the lanai, and they denied it and said the blades was responsible.
Doesn't surprise me, which is part of the basis of why we argue, and we'll have that battle under statute, that absolutely it's the association.
universal insurance?
Was it universal?
Yes.
Yeah. Sir?
COs, I guess, certificates of occupancy.
Yes, sir.
Which buildings does that apply to?
Every building.
All of those 250 buildings are having new,
I'll
they're
deal with
done
that.
to the patch, there's a certificate of occupancy.
Marty, I'll let Marty cover it. Depends on damage. Sir?
I'm not clear if we want to go ahead and install using a company of our own, kitchen cabinets, bathroom cabinets and all that.
Marty's going to cover that.
Okay, Marty.
Marty's got a lot of his plate.
Okay, Marty, when the night's over, get up there.
Submit these. If they need to, yeah, submit the procedure to the association.
What time's dinner?
All right, Marty.
Okay.
Let him go and then I'll take some.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay, let me start off with probably one of the hottest topics out here for scheduling. All right? In the 1st of December, when we first arrived on site and started sorting through things, the Glades gave us a copy of the roofs. It's what he's believed, it's what we, based on severity, we all thought would be what we labeled the top 40. Come to find out, we put the schedule together, we were going to stand by that. Bobby hadn't received confirmation from the carrier for the Glades on this is what we're going to do. The ones that we were certain of was the ones on Palm. So that we based on the way they were covered, that was what we knew was going to happen. We needed to get started, hence a schedule came out that was prepared at the end of January. Oddly enough, one of the roofs that we had taken apart on Palm was not yet approved, but the carrier approved it, and Bobby, we called him on it. And they said if the carrier approves it, that's fine. So we went with that to see logistic-wise how, we call it a soft start, to see what we were going to run into. Hurricane straps we're not using because it's not new construction. We're using clips. They're Dade County approved. The engineers have approved them. We have all the NOAs for it. What we have to do is we peel back 16 inches in that case over there, and we've got some we've got to take a whole 4 foot off of the decking. Those buildings over there have 140 clips. The application process is to drill into the tie beam, and there's 4 bolts that go into it and 4 bolts that go into the truss. Extremely time consuming. The county has allowed us to use an engineer. We're taking photographs of the befores, so there'll be records. We're taking the photographs of the afters, which again there are records. An engineer blesses it, signs, seals it. Now, the next step the county wants us to do, there's a re-roof mitigation package that we have to fill out for every building. Along with that package comes the items that the Glades charged us with pulling over the last 2 months as evaluations. They want evaluations of each unit to give a total billing value. That's part of their documentation for the inspection. So that added 3 to 4 days to the whole process. So now we know what we're into. On February 22nd, I received a list of roofs that are definitely approved. Those in green on here are approved. Those that are in blue are approved as either a flat roof or a shingle roof. And I've got 15 pages of every section that's out here. When we went through this list in the first schedule, it was an aha moment. Because I think there were 15 or 16 roofs that were on that was still in dispute. And that's what Bobby's trying to work through right now. We left the buildings on, put no dates off of them. We took the dates off of them because we cannot touch them until he says go with it. So the schedule got changed up. Now, with that being said, we know what we're running into. We've started the 10 on turn. We're going to make the turn, pardon the pun, to go back up on Palm to take out the rest of the buildings on Palm that we know now are approved. We've got within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, Glades being taken care of because we know there's 19 out there that has already been approved in its entirety. Then we're going to Section 11. There's another 23 up there. These have all been assigned. By June 13th, 74 roofs should be complete of the 96 that I've got. What's going to happen in this interim now, in the cycle, we're going to infill. As he gets the approvals, I've got 2 roofing contractors, national companies out here. The second one will be starting in a couple of weeks. They will be coming off of Glades. I will be able to rotate them into the other areas. There are areas that I've only got 2 or 3 roofs. Now I've got this question, Quail's Nest. I've got 3 approved, 12 others pending. The mobilization for this operation is very, very intense, and it's very expensive. The more I can do, the happier we all are going to be. So what we're going to try to do again over the next 30 days to 45 days is have the ability to backfill these other sections. My schedule ran through for the roofs September 21st, and I'm not backing off of it. So, get used to us. We're going to be everywhere. That is the mission at this point. Those that are obvious repairs, Bobby's going to leave it to our discretion, the roofing companies, because there are those. I'm not going in on a flat section of a roof and putting in 6 or 7 shingles. I'm telling you that, and I've told them that since the very beginning. I've done this 35 years. It's going to leak. There's no question. So it's going to go ridge to ridge. As long as I'm not doing more than 50% of the roof, I don't have to worry about the hurricane clips. But we have bought a bulk of hurricane clips because we're seeing we're going to use it. We're buying them a ski at a time. So, that's what I want to get clear up as far as, again, the schedule itself, when we said in the very beginning, it's a living, breathing, moving document. But at least we have now direction. And that's the one that we're going to focus on. The permitting process, going back to velocity. We're going through and trying to get ones that have units and buildings that have minimal damage. We've gotten 29 of about 250 unit permits canceled. Frank Lasana is walking through, you all know who he is, probably most of you do. He's walking through the inspector. The inspector comes out here once, twice a week. They spend the day, they go through. We either pass the inspection to demolition, or they cancel it out because there's no damage. So that permit completely falls off that unit. What hung us up on the permits was Velocity had pulled a demolition permit and turned right around, and they had put in their description of work that they were going to do the firewalls, fire tape, and everything else. Now we've got fire involved. I can't get the permit signed off unless fire signs off on it. And the fire becomes part of our scope. Fire's been out here 3 times. We're expecting a letter, wanting a letter from us. Basically, we're requesting them to sign off, but we'll be assuming the responsibilities of the putback for what the fire has approved. Dennis Terrier has been working with the fire safety company. We've got the details. It's an accepted detail the county's going to accept. and also to the engineers going to accept on taking care of these firewalls. Next week, we anticipate starting in the buildings. I don't have to have roofs to do these buildings that have the firewalls that need to be done. We're going to begin that process. Next week, the units in the buildings that have minimal damage, virtually no damage. Stuff was done for no reason, you name it. The county has authorized us to go ahead and make those repairs. And next week, we're going to start making those repairs. We're trying to get buildings that have, we're working two sides of it. One of them that has the miscellaneous minor repairs that we can get back online as soon as the roof goes on it. And then, of course, those that have major, I've been walking with Dennis on a few of these over on Palm to see who we have to bring in to get everything done that's there, to bring this up. We have to pull permits for things that have, plumbing, electrical. The drywall by itself, small repair, it's discretionary. We can get in, get out, and get back to your lives. You can paint your walls, whatever it is you're going to do. But the ones that have more drastic, and it's something that Brian touched on briefly a little bit ago, those are the ones we're trying to assess. The 50% rule, I know, is a very complicated rule. There's two sides to it. This is 8 pages of what it consists of in its entirety. Now, for the question we got asked about pulling a permit, getting somebody in to fix your unit, okay? The county is notifying me of every permit that is attempting to get pulled out. And for one reason only. 50% doesn't totally mean just value. It's 50% of the integrity of the building is the other side. So for those of you who have more than 2 units completely gutted out, in order to, I can't get 50% of the repair value. Otherwise, I trigger FEMA again. So I have to go into your unit, assess the actual repair space. So if you've got an 8-inch wall, it comes another 9.5 with the furring and the drywall. That is only a 15% repair. The integrity of the wall is intact. And I have to identify every wall inside that structure. And then what it's going to cost to bring it to CO. So let's do the magic on it. 4 units, 2 of them are damaged, somebody goes out, you got a $200,000 value. We just put a $25,000, $30,000 roof on it, let's say. I've got 2 units, we're looking at 30 grand to bring it back up between all the drywall and everything we have to do, electrical. So all of a sudden 60,000. Excuse me. Somebody pulls a permit for 50 grand. That falls under the restoration portion of this. They just triggered it. Because that 1 unit at $50,000 and my 30 at 80, and it's only worth 100, 80% damage. And that's how FEMA will look at it. That's the reason why I've asked everybody, don't get carried away or have your people talk to me. Getting to the CO, we have all worked diligently. There are 2 or 3 contractors out here, one in particular, that his firm has purchased kitchen cabinets. And it's just, to clear this up, it's just a basic kitchen sink box cabinet. A laminate top. The county is supposed to let us know whether it needs to be 4 foot, 5 foot, but they haven't told us yet. Drop-in sink, faucet, it's functional. Your appliances do not have to be in place. Connections have to be there, though. Those that are more than significantly damaged where I can get to the ceilings, I've got to hardwire smoke alarms. Those have got to go in. That's a code issue. The units, when you get back into the bathrooms, it has to have a swinging door. They're letting us get away with linoleum, and I'm working with another contractor here. Though linoleum is not code. So don't think you're going to put it in and get away with it. It's not code. They're going to let us get away with it, but it's going to be so ugly, I promise them you guys will rip it out. So, but we have to have the toilets in place. For the units that have missing toilets, broken toilets, we've been asked to purchase them, keep track of them, and that will be between Brian and Velocity. We're going to set the toilets back in place. We'll work with you on it for your contractors. Tubs and shower bases. We're looking at, Dennis had looked up earlier, we've got a couple tubs that the bathroom's really not damaged, but they've chipped the tub, the steel tub and porcelain on it. There are companies out there that will do repairs. When we get numbers on that, again, it goes back to him, he takes care of Velocity. Because if we rip them out, we've got to rip out all the tile walls. Same way on the shower base. So we're having to use some discretion on what we're doing to get it to CO. But a toilet has to be there, some type of sink base, sink faucet, out there, all functional. But it's a stripped down bare bones. Certificate of occupancy means habitable. You can live there. No floor covering. No one puts floor covering into anything. Trim isn't required. Wall coverings, as he made reference before, window treatments, they're not required for CO. It's just the human needs. HVAC, which Glades takes care of, hot, cold running water, and again, it doesn't have to be pretty. It's not a show. But that is the importance of how the 50% itself works and how quickly it'll trigger on two sides. So we're having to do the math in our trailer, on this as we walk through the units. Well, I get a phone call from the county that I've got so-and-so in unit, whatever it is, in building so-and-so, that's in here with a permit, wanting to get a permit for $60,000 for interior remodel. Oh, really? Yeah. So it's a very complex, very, very complex to understand. What we're going to continue to do, again, with Frank, Dennis, we have to get the permits out of Lassie, and these guys, I'm going to have to end up bringing 3 more people out here just to keep up with what we've got getting ready to start. Because now we're ready to start moving to the interiors. One more thing the county's added to us, and again, it is a code requirement, it's called the blower door. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, it has to do with energy calculations. For those units that are, the majority of them have been destroyed or opened up, whatever you want to call it, all wall ceiling insulation has to be in, and it will have to be certified. And again, back to the percentages. If it's over 85%, got it, then I have to have the insulation certified. So, and again, we've retained someone who's going to be looking at this to see what we can get away with as far as the insulation is staying under 85%. All we have to be able to prove is we've got insulation in the walls and ceiling, be 30 and 4.5, I think is what it is, in the walls, and we can go ahead and rock back over it. To again be very clear on the electrical, we will have to bring everything that we see up to code. And again, this is one of those things that you'll have to know about as we go through. The clips are a code requirement. The fire walls are, these are items that will not count against FEMA. So, like I said, these are certain things that will be pulled out of this. And the county has specifically asked me to identify those items separately so that they don't impact the values. So with that, like I said, we've got everybody pretty much on board, ready to go. We've got ready to fire it up. We've got it started. It's kind of a feel-good thing seeing, not the roofs tore off, but, there's something happening. It's going that way. And so many of you have worked with us and asked the questions, and I have no problems with walking units. I prefer to do that. This has been the past couple weeks have been the first I've been out here as much as I have been, because when I was, brought into the project, I had a couple other things to finish up. So there was only so much for me to go around. But one of the first things that we did, again, we started getting evaluations, started getting things because we knew what we were going to be faced with. So we're ahead of the curve. It's just a matter now of keeping it going. That's a boilerplate of what we're doing. I have a dummy down list of what he passed out. It basically what Glades we're paying for, what Glades is doing. There's some items at the bottom. Those are the items that we use for discussion. And like I said, it's a very simplified version of CO, what it looks like. And that's what we'll be working with. So it's going to be case by case. And again, there are buildings that we can release, and I encourage people to get with us on it. Another thing, too, misconception. This is not residential. Single family duplex is the only thing a residential can pull owner builder. Anything beyond that is commercial. And commercial requires permits for everything. So, they'll tell you, like I said, floor covering doesn't naturally, but the county will still be involved. Like I said, a licensed contractor has to be on site, otherwise it will get red tagged. And for the unit out here, don't know if there's any of you in here that have gone the extra mile of getting your unit put back together, and the county walks in, we pull a permit, it's all brand new, they could make us take it apart. So be very, very careful what you do. Those who are asking questions about half walls, take walls out. I cannot do that. Now, if there's a wall gone and you put floor to ceiling, and if the velocity ripped it out, and you'd like for that to be a half wall, nobody knows it wasn't. I'll put it back as a half wall. So, but anything that's obvious, we have to be very, very careful with the county on. We're wanting to accommodate the best that we possibly can. And I want to work with, like I said, the MEP trades are some of the most difficult. But, you know, again, duct work that goes up in the trusses, simple change. And they don't care how we get it there. So, you know, if your soffit's been tore up magically somehow, you know, and you want the duct work up in, you know, in through the webbing, we can do it. So, I mean, that's really about it. I wanted to get to, like I said, the number one topic on here, again, was the schedule, why, what happened and why it happened. So, but, questions?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. This lady, that's a lady.
Received an email today regarding the schedule, and there were, I counted 74 routes that were on the schedule between, up through May 23rd. I didn't find 160 Penny Lane on there, and I had been over to the trailer and was told up front that it was going to be, we were in the first 40. So it looks like now we'll maybe be in the third 40?
No, there's no 40s off the table. It's all done. You know, I've got what I need. There's a number of roofs on Penny right now to basically allow me to schedule that in. There are 9 roofs. So what we'll most likely do is, again, we're going to run out blades because that got out there quickly until I had this figured out. So there's still some in dispute. I'm hoping the other 2 or 3 is on there come through. But I'm going to tell you probably looking at mid-April, you know, because that'll be the wrap-up that we'll have mid-July parking. I've got crews that do 2 separate things. I've got crews that rip off roofs. I've got crews that dry them and put them back in and do the clips. So, I mean, there's 2 separate groups of people that do this. Yes.
The 2 things. When you say the roofs are in dispute, I assume you mean you want to replace the whole roof and somebody else is saying they don't want to?
No, I just want them and the carrier to tell me the same thing.
The dispute is between what the public adjuster believes is a necessary full replacement versus the insurance adjuster says, oh no, you can just patch that or whatever. So that's the dispute.
And that's the question, again, they're going to leave it, these that they can't get an impasse, is going to leave it to the discretion of myself, you know, my guys, and the roofing contractor.
My second question is, in the units where you're doing the firewalls, since this is commercial, are those firewalls going to run above the ceiling to the ridge of the roof?
Yes. They got to go to the deck. And again, this isn't a brand new construction, so we're having to create engineering that gets approved for this. Because there's no way, without tearing up the units on both sides of it, to make this exactly what a chase wall is supposed to be.
Yeah, going back to my question about this, earlier about the sinks in the bathroom. Is that something that has to be replaced by you or us? The reason why I ask the question is because my insurance company is telling me that they won't replace my vanities.
They said they what?
Because they said that was part of the building or part of the...
No, and that's between what he's saying, and I totally, in all the years that I've done projects with associations and the resorts, you know, clearly the content of what's in that thing falls on squarely on the shoulder. As a matter of fact, it's more lenient now than it used to be. You know, but where the association picks up more of it. But the sink, faucet, cabinets, let me ask you a question. Okay, I go in there and put a $25 Lowe's sink base in there. Is that what you had?
Would I what?
I say, was that what you had in there? Was a $25 hardwood?
No, I mean, I had a, you know, normal vanity.
But this is the question to ask your adjuster.
Yeah.
We have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
And you pay for upgrades, and that's what you're getting back.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why policies are written in such a way, if you've got replacement cost, you know, or you've got policy limits, whatever that may be, they're going to lowball what they give you.
Sure.
You know, and there's 3 items within the perimeters of that. It's called profit, overhead, and recoverable depreciation. You have to have a GC to hit these 2. Recoverable depreciation comes down to what you pay.
I guess I'm not clear. I think you said that you were going to replace toilets.
No.
Or are you going to put them back or whatever?
I'm going to set them in place because I can get it done to help everyone out towards CO. Those of you who are hiring a GC to put the units back, which is going to have to be the vast majority of them, you know, it's one of those cases of working with, and I've got to work with a couple of people to get some of this stuff done. that as far as the, the sink cabinets, the things that, I'll have a plumber there, it's one of those situations, it's gonna be a case by case. I cannot get out of the building unless you all are CO'd.
I'm only asking if they would replace the vanities that they removed. They didn't break them up, they just took them out.
Oh, then, I mean, yeah, if that's the question, I think, again, it's back to my plumber, it's one of those cases, a nominal cost, and we'll deal with it. Anything to get you there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to have new.
No, I've got a couple contractors out here that's just gonna do it for their owners, because they've got the contract for the remodels. So the quicker they get a CO, and the building gets a CO, the quicker they can fulfill their contract, or whatever that dollar amount is. So I can tell you, they're very amenable just to hook your old stuff up. Especially if you got a significant.
If you're going to ask a question, please stand up and speak loudly so everybody in the room can hear you. Sitting down is very hard for people to hear. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Paul Forder, Section 8. The information that we've been given today is really important. It's really nice to know who's in charge. And I want to say this with all due respect. I'm not saying no one up there is not working hard. Maybe we're not working right. I just heard you say you're going to bring 3 more people on. That's very encouraging. Because what's important for the people who don't have a place to live in is that it's going on 7 months. A woman who got pregnant when Irma hit will have a baby before they're back into their units. Now, I with all due respect, I've heard a lot of discussions, and I asked our general manager today, and I heard something from the lawyer, and I didn't say he's doing a bad job because I didn't know he wasn't doing the job. He said to me today in an email, the board decided to make key claims and EnviroStruct in charge of the project. Now my question is this. Number 1, who does the project team report to? If not the GM and the board. 2, how many roofs have been replaced in this going on 7 months? How many displaced residents have been put back into their units? I think we know the answer. And why is there no clear schedule? Here's what's the surprising part. I met with our general manager in November, had a good discussion with him. He told me the roofs would be on our unit, which were leaking profusely and still 2 days ago were. He said they'll be done in December. Then he said, or January. Then our then president said, yes, December or January.
Of what year?
Yeah, what year? Now, the point.
250 roofs, I didn't even realize.
But here's the point. This is the messages we were getting from the leadership of the Glades. Although, you're the one who appears to be calling the shots here. Okay. Now, we were told March 5th we would have this new roof put up. Today we get an email saying the following. Now listen to this. This is unbelievable. We have 2 8-plexes and 6 bungalows. Now, after being told all roofs were going to be repaired, we're told no. It's still up in the air.
Is there a question here? Or comment?
Yes, no, it is. This is important.
Okay.
Somebody made the decision, unless all 22 roofs are dealt with, the major ones that are profusely leaking to this day will not be repaired. That doesn't make any sense. I want to know who made that decision.
I did.
Okay, well that's a wrong call. We got 2 units.
I'm not going to get back combative with you.
Paul, that's a bad call. I want to know who's accountable. You're the president. Who's accountable for the decisions?
Tone your voice down, please.
No, you said people wanted to hear. I'm going to make sure they hear.
Okay, Paul, hold on. Let me answer the questions. I understand that you're frustrated. The ultimate person that is responsible is the team that's put together. We are not at the whim of running out and just replacing a roof. You being a member of the Glades, have a contractual obligation to avail the insurance company of every request that they have in order to inspect and do what they need to do to adjudicate your claim. If they had gone on and replaced those roofs, you'd have gotten this much money from your insurance company from those roofs. There is no one being that is in charge here.
No,
You're dealing with a $20 million, 250 buildings commercial rebuild. You're dealing with 4 different divisions at the county, 5 different trades. You're dealing with a public adjuster, an adjuster for the insurance company, a reinsurance company with Lloyd's of London, who's the second. I know, but it's complicated.
No, this is my question. Now, I heard you earlier. I hope we're not paying you by the word. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this with respect, Brian. It's not good enough to say, I know people are working hard. But I know one thing. I see that trailer sitting empty on the weekends. I see the office sitting empty on the weekends. Well, I was working and we had tragedies.
Okay, hold on.
Everybody worked
It's
7/24.
It's illegal to work on Sunday in Collier County, and you're not allowed. It is.
I'm not talking about the contractors. I'm talking about those you putting it in place.
I cannot make an insurance company approve your claim any faster than what Keys claims we are doing.
Well, look, okay, I'm going to end with this. I understand, and again, I'm going to say, I know you're doing hard work. I just don't think you're doing hard work right enough. There's not a sense of urgency. People don't have a place to live. And I'm just going to say, as good as you are at what you do, we got to be better, and we got to work more assiduously to get those people back in their units as quickly as possible. In June, when it's rainy season, you won't be putting any roofs on, my friend.
I can't change what the weather does. I've been here only 3 months, sir. 3 months. I set a schedule up to start on the 19th day of February. The 23rd, we were tearing roofs off. That I can tell you. There's 74 roofs on schedule right now. I fill them in according to what I get approved. Work smart. I've done this for 35 years. I can assure you I will pull off what I say I'm going to, or make every effort to do it. Again, we can't work Sundays. My crews are out here, and one of my guys will make the trips out here on Saturdays, and they're pulling roofs on Saturdays. So, you know, let's let the project catch up, because I can't get inside until I can make sure they're dry. Now, as far as your leaky roof, we have been charged with one task, is to make sure we get a call or complaint. We have people out here that retard them, put them back on. We've been given an open range for that, to make sure that we keep these units dry as long as, you know, as best we can. So, yeah, like I said,
That thing's hot. You'll have it. It's hot now.
All right, that's going to be hard to follow, but I'll try and...
no, it only simple to follow.
I'll try to be brief. I happen to be in the same section, and you're right. Our roof, can you hear me? Our roof has been, and every time we call Todd, it's been done. Our roof has been re-tarped, re-nailed, re-tarred 5 times. On Saturday, water poured into our master bedroom. I sent an email to Todd. Monday morning, your guys were there, and I appreciate it. The only question I have now is the same question that Paul Porter just raised. Our section is 22 different condos, 6 villas, and 2 eightplexes. The 2 eightplexes have already been okayed for full roof replacements. The villas, according to my director, Frank Kenny, was the president, said that the villas were also approved, but now there's a dispute as it relates to the 6 villas. So until, and you talked about mobilizing, so until that can be resolved, I guess what I don't understand, Marty, is that the 16 will continue to leak, even though, I mean, you can repair only so much, the wind and everything else damages, it leaks again. Until the 6 villas are resolved, the rest of us suffer. We were originally in that list of 40, but that's all changed. I mean, I understand that. But I don't understand having to wait until 6 have been clarified and 16 drowned.
It's one of those situations, you're talking 6 and 16, it's the buildings, it's the number of buildings. It's not the number of units that we're focusing on, the number of buildings. And the mobilization and the equipment we have to move around or transfer is very expensive. So we need to do what we need to do as quickly as we can in mass and bring out everything that we can. So if I can pick up, because I can tell you what will happen. Those that aren't approved, and I go out there and I jump on and do this big, you know, this run for these 2, I may not get back there for 2 or 3 months. because I'm elsewhere. I'm doing repairs and everything. I know you don't care because you're getting rained on.
No, they're not leaking though, they're not leaking, those ones.
But I understand that. But what I have to do is I have to do the logistics, manpower logistics.
But you're only traveling a couple hundred yards to go move equipment from here to there.
Come on, Marty.
No, it's just, I have to do it based on what I get, based on what I've got crews for here, to do. And again, I'm looking at volume, and when it comes back down to what gets finally released to me, we're not talking an extended period of time. We're just talking to where I can backfill it and get another crew.
Can you tell me when then?
I won't be able to tell you anything until I hear back from him. Okay, somebody,
I have a question. How many roofing contractors do we have on the job right now?
I've got 2 national companies.
2 out.
A second one was starting on the blades in 2 weeks.
Okay, as I did some rough numbers, we have 74 roofs to be done and 17 weeks on your schedule. If we have 2 roofing contractors, that means they're getting 4 roofs a week between 2 roofing contractors. Something's not right here.
I can only submit 4 permits a day. And they come out 3 or 4 days later, they give us an email. I can have as much manpower down here as I need. You gotta keep in mind, I just in 2 weeks, I just found out what we can do. And that's what I'm trying to gear up for now. We've been waiting on it, $2 million a year.
Is the county the one that's holding this?
The county was a big chunk of it at the very beginning because they were only going to give us 4 permits, is what's happened on Paul. Submit 4 per permit and don't submit any more until after I approve them. So they're going to delay us 3 or 4 days on those permits. So I can only do 4 every 3 or 4 days. And
Something's got to be done.
it's already fixed. It's already done. We have been assigned 2 or 3 people from the county. We can submit 4 a day. They're going to do a rotation. 2 people have been assigned. We've got inspectors that have been assigned.
But if it's still in the time schedule, we're still 4 roofs a week.
Now, it'll pick up within the next week and a half because we're mobilizing more people. We've got approvals.
Okay.
They're bringing more people in.
That's the key.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Oh, no.
And pardon me, but I've driven down Palm Drive every day since the 22nd of February. The most I've seen out there was the first week they were there, they had people on 3 roofs.
Yeah.
Driving by
That was our
now,
first reapproval.
the most I've seen out there in the last 2 weeks has been 8 people.
Yeah, we were approved only through the first 3. This is when they were going through the cycle, going through 2 or 3 days. And then we had a problem with 216 because there was a broken truss. And then 201, they had the wrong address. They had 201, but it was 201, 205. So that delayed that, so we came back in and put both those, took both those off and put them on. So, like I said, it's logistics. It's a matter of trying to,
You're on top of this,
Yeah.
you're getting more people in.
Yes.
That's what, thank you.
No, wait. Those roofing crews, they're there before 7 and they're there after dark at dusk. They're there 12 hours a day, just so you know.
And that's how they'll continue to work. Let me get a couple hundred people here.
I have a money question, and I don't know who can answer, maybe.
Please, keep it down.
Maybe Mr. Blanton can answer, I don't know. I heard you say, Brian, I think, that our deductible is $4.6 million.
That's on every building, but not every building is damaged. Each individual building has their own specific deductible amount.
What is the deductible amount that the owners will be responsible for?
That was what I talked into earlier. I can tell you what your full deductible is on every building, but depending on what we recover in the claim, what is paid, plus what is in your reserves for roofs that you don't need to reserve for, I can't tell you today that each owner is going to pay X dollars for this whole hurricane thing, because it's a target that's going to move depending on how many roofs they say have to be fully replaced, how much they pay for roofs, what type of bulk discount savings can we get.
In general, give me a number within $1 million on what.
The only thing I can tell you is you could take your 4.
What I don't understand is he said in the meeting today that the deductible was 4.6. That's why I.
That is for every single building, if every single building met the deductible.
Okay.
That's not the case. Some buildings will not have met deductible. So that will be an expense that that section will pay that won't be covered by insurance. Do I know what it would be? I mean, the worst case scenario, you could take
At 4.6, at 11.
Divided by 11.62.
That's $4,000.
That's if you had to pay, every owner had to pay their pro rata share, the full deductible.
I agree.
Correct.
So that's a number, that's a realistic number out there to start. Mr. Blanton is shaking his head no, so. Explain to me where I'm wrong. I'd like to hear from you. I've been at 4 meetings and I haven't heard your voice one time, Mr. Blanton. Not one time.
Well, let's get back to the purpose of this meeting, for construction, and get this thing done. You know, I want to go back, because the question got asked earlier. My team runs the construction out here. You know, I'm at the will of management, and Blaze Management, Bobby, and Brian. We are a team as well. But I don't know how to run an association, and I don't know whether he'd want my job or not. But you know, I run the construction aspect of it, so it goes to me and my team.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Number one, how do you determine which building is fixed first? I thought it was to be for the people that are no longer able to be in their apartment. Those should come first. A lot of these people are.
The schedule's already set up. I'm gonna backfill as fast as I can, and I'm gonna run.
Why are not all of the buildings that need to be repaired on the schedule?
Because I've got 100 of them. So where do I start? I have to start somewhere. So I started on Palm to try to get logistics to figure out what it looked like. You know, now I know how to man it. Now I know how to gear it. But I'm running in sections that give me the most. I have the most that I can get it done in mass and start to backfill the thing back in.
Okay, so you're not going according to the need of the buildings. You're going to sections that have to.
The buildings that I have been in have been pretty severely damaged, and those on turn. So, you know, I don't know what that picture totally looks like, you know, because if I were in a fourplex and my building, you know, my unit was tore out, to me, that's the most important building in the association. But I've got those that have 2, 3, you know, and these are the ones that we're trying to do so I can get, again, an interior crew to start putting those together, get acclimated, and start moving through.
I think the other thing that isn't seem to be resonating out here, and I have to step out in a few minutes, but if there are specific legal questions, please send them to Todd. He'll forward them to me. I have to get to the Greater Naples Fire Commissioner meeting that I have once a month as your fire commissioner. The process on any project this big is slower in the beginning with a soft start, dealing with county, dealing with FEMA, what do they require? Oh my goodness, there are no firewalls out here that's built in the 60s. You have to have them everywhere. We're not going to rip everything out of every unit to build firewalls. They've gone through multiple different testing and spray applications and procedures to make sure that we get the rated firewall, comply with all commercial code requirements, everything you're going to deal with. Now that we have a much larger number of roofs approved, and now that we should have the documentation to substantiate that, and we're finishing the re-inspections on the buildings, the number of workers, the number of roofs being done, the potential to accelerate the schedule, the potential when you get a roof done early that he can grab that crew and say, hey, jump over to those 2 8-plexes over here with the 6 bungalows that are missing, let's backfill and you guys over here. He's going to have everything at his disposal. He's got 2 national companies. That's not 2 crews, that's 2 companies. They're shipping in people to do work that are good, qualified, skilled people that we've background checked and searched and we got pretty high standards on. They're going to have an ability as a project manager for him to deploy things faster in a more fluid manner now that we've gone through. Because even though some of these roofs were done 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what existed after a Category 4 hurricane in terms of what it was going to take for him to fix it and put it back together versus, all right, now we know what we got to crack on this truss. Here's the detail that the engineer's already written and signed. Here's the repair protocols, and the county's accepted it. We don't have to go through that 7-day process of getting the engineer out here, having him go to his office, run calculation, runs load, submit it under seal, 3 to 4 days for the county to approve it. We now have that template. Same thing with the firewalls. Once they get through, the first few buildings are not going to be put back interiors in 3 days and drywall. But as we do it and do the applications and do this firewall and find out the fastest systems and find out what the county will say, don't worry about that, you're fine. Everything then exponentially moves faster throughout a project. So please keep faith in that. I know it's driving everybody crazy. I know that they have had an eye and had their door open to people, and they are taking questions about, hey, you really got to see how bad my building is. Can you try and get it on? He's got the horrible job of he controls the means, method, and sequencing, subject to what our insurance company agrees they're going to provide coverage for. because they don't want to go out and do $3 million of work, and we say, oh, that wasn't covered, guys, here's another $3 million special assessment. He has the job of balancing 1,162 unit owners, me, versus how do I keep it in line with construction costs and mobilization, and how do we find some method, sequencing to order for the people that are worst, hardest hit. The board, Todd, and I, we've all made it very clear to him that anything and everything you can do to try and accommodate full-time residents, people that can't get back in ahead of renters or ahead of the seasonal people, please do. He is trying to do that. That's why he's going through and having so much of his back office, his back staff, try and work on gathering the information and put it into this schedule. And that document being living and breathing, if he comes across a section or several buildings that are worse than we thought, and the tarps and the temporaries are not holding up better than other ones, he's going to make that executive decision and say, we got to move them into the schedule faster. Know that he does feel that pressure, because I've put it on plenty of times, and he knows about balancing the hardest, worst hit versus some of the minor ones.
More charge.
I know, it's all talk, but I promise soon you'll see it moving, so it'll be less talk and more action.
Yeah, since you may have rhythm is that were you entertaining any contracts or any of the people?
Well, that's, again, our drywall guys were out here today.
The question was about in the schedule, sheetrocking and drywall.
They were out here today. We're going to start off with three guys on Monday to start doing the small minor repairs, because I need to get the firewalls put in, which will be in next week. And then Max will ramp us up on anything that I need. He's one of the biggest, drywall plastering contractors in Southwest Florida. So the insulation company's the same. And then for those of you who are asking about gutters, we're getting ready to start popping those on too, those that we can. So the next 2 weeks we'll be doing soft insulation. Yeah. Palm, I'm starting to walk units on Palm, trying to get people lined up on that. That's the reason why we had the people out that we had out. I've got 2 electrical contractors ready to come on board, 2 plumbing contractors. So,
and it's just an issue, like he said, not to harp on it, but he can't just run in and stick drywall and insulation in on those buildings that are at the 50%, like 50% of the square footage is damaged, so then you trigger FEMA. If it's got insulation, he's got to go measure the insulation. Like you said, he's got to measure the wall and take off the 8 inches of wall and say, no, I'm only replacing 1.5 inches of drywall and furring. That's only 1.5 inches of the building, not 9 inches, to get him within that measurement. All that has to be part of that package that goes to the county. The county's doing a great job, but again, they're the government. We're having, well, I say that with no fun, I'm the government as well, I'm everybody official, so. But, don't worry, I only get paid $300 a month, so I'm not very expensive by the taxpayer. We have to submit to them to tell them what the values are per unit. Now, mind you, down the hall is the property appraiser who has the exact values per address already, but they can't communicate, and we actually have to go get it from the property appraiser, bring it in, and submit it by unit, by application, by address, by unit number, to say this is what it is. Then on the ones, like on Palm, where we're concerned about the FEMA thing, we have a real estate appraiser who's going to be coming out next week for walk units, so he can start to put together a mass system for giving me appraised values by unit, by building, and then I got to see how much higher he is than the property appraised value, and see if I can get the county to accept his, or see if they're going to demand that I get a second appraisal if he's too high.
There's several thousand pages of documents that have to be generated to make this work. And like I said, we started right after we got in here in December, starting to see what that looked like, and in January started running it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Our building on Quail Nest had water damage, we do not see our building on
Quail's Nest became one of the most disappointing because there was a lot of damage up there. I've only got 3 approved roofs.
I'm sorry.
I said I've only got 3 approved roofs on Quail's Nest. And if you don't see yours on the approved list, it's still up and pending. So if it's not there, and there's a dispute, there was no need to even putting it on the schedule, because all it does is give you false hope.
And we're working through those, or we're done with them.
we're looking at the next 2 or 3 weeks to be able to backfill this with the rest of the buildings. And that way I know what it looks like.
Marty, I have just one quick question.
Yeah.
One thing I think a lot of us are interested in, especially those of us who have totally got it, are they going to prioritize which places they're going to start working on first?
Stand up.
I just want to know, are they going to prioritize which units they're going to start working on first based on the damage? For example, those of us who are totally gutted, can't move into their, or can't use their units. Are they going to prioritize that work or not?
Well, I've got about 80 of those.
But I understand that.
Yeah, and that's, again, putting back the schedule, the puzzle, pieces of the puzzle. There's only so much that can be done based on inspections, permits, and stuff like that. But, again, going back, I'm going to use the prioritization list based on how my schedule is, based on my list. Because I'm going to have a much more contentious crowd if you're dried in and there's nothing going on in the interior. There's no question. So, and that's how we're going to prioritize getting the insides done. We know we can keep them dry when they're going to stay dry. We know we can finish them. And again, I can't be bouncing around, different areas. We're going to try to put them in a sequence. But Dennis and Frank have a better idea of what we're looking at as far as that picture is concerned. You got to keep in mind, I've only been in probably a dozen units here. And their last I counted was 1,100. So, in 270 buildings, give or take. So, I mean, it's a big picture. It's a very big picture. But trying to get it done, to answer to your question, we're going to put together a list of how this goes based on the buildings that we're going to be able to turn over, and get COs on. So, because I need to CO the building to get your lives back. And that's, I mean, if I've got a unit that's got 2 buildings, 2 units in it that are trashed, 2 units that are fine, somebody waiting on getting a subcontractor in there, a contract in there for that, I'm going to have to prioritize what I'm doing in that sequence. So I get the CO, again, where they can hire the contractor and move on. So I've got to be able to turn them over, so it's a balancing act. Turning over buildings and then, attacking those that still need to be worked on. Yes?
Yuck word. Who's responsible for it?
Glades.
Glades?
Yeah.
Now, will this be clean? There's some funky looking stuff.
I am not a big fan of cleaning anything that's gotten wet, especially if it's a fiberboard or something like that. Spiral's not a big deal because there's not much you can stick to it. But if it's any kind of fiber or insulated, then, we're probably going to be instructed to remove it. The extra. So, put new ductwork back in. But there's no way of getting rid of it once it's there. There's one more item. We've had to request several times for those with content and your carriers. The carriers are maybe looking for a letter from construction management here that you have to pack out, move out, and that's what makes your content legal as far as the insurance company is concerned. So if you have that provision within your policy, we have a boilerplate letter from the Glades that the unit has to be emptied. Those moving and storage costs in many of the policies can be recoverable from within the parameters of your policy. So, like I said, we have that letter. Just get with Dennis or Frank, and they can get it put together for you. But we've had several insurance companies specifically ask for it. Yes.
I've got a proposal. Part of the complexity is that we're trying to deal with all the units in the place. Can you hear me?
No, you can hear
something. No, you can hear that.
Okay. Part of the complexity, as I see it, and I've been listening to the whole meeting, is that we're trying to cover the concerns and the problems dealing with all the glades, all the units in the glades. Would it be possible for a meeting to be held addressing the concerns with each unit? In other words, I'm in Unit 11, and a lot of what's been addressed has nothing to do with Unit 11 and so forth and so on. But couldn't it be done faster? Couldn't we get a response faster to the concerns of all of us if we had meetings with separate units
Well, the units themselves have all been impossible. The sections themselves, we've already done this, or started this. Section 3A, it was a great meeting. You know, there were probably, what, 20, 25 people in here, nice intimate meeting, questions, answers, and it went really, really well. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. You know, by section, as we're starting to go into that, the Glades wants to set up, you know, the space in here, and the directors of those sections, you know, can at least give me a couple weeks' notice that it's going to happen. You know, and I'd be more than happy to sit down and go through everything, you know, as we start looking into sections. So section 4 right now, turn. If you're out there and you want to get something put together, you know, get with you know, the Glade staff. Because I want to say something here. You know, in putting this together, all the moving parts, you know, I have to actually commend all the people that's up here. There have been countless hours, countless emails, countless phone calls, you know, in trying to make this work and come together. This is a 770-acre puzzle. And let's keep in mind that that's what this picture looks like. So again, you know, Todd, it's just, you know, I wear him out, he wears me out, and it's one of those situations. But communication is incredible, you know, and he's doing the best he can with all of this moving parts. And again, we're trying again the best that we can. And our meetings on Fridays, or every Friday, are to the point. There are discussions on what we're going to do. There are questions asked, different ideas, and they're very, very, very productive. My guys are involved in that. They have their input from what they're seeing out in the field, in the units, what we're going to be dealt with, what we're dealing with. So, and again, I have to commend the Glade staff. They're very accommodating for us, and we have to have that, and to us. We've not been around here. Most everybody up here has. You know, we've only been here for 3 months, so we're still learning where all the roads and side streets are. So, like I said, without their help, we wouldn't be as far along as we are. So I have to appreciate everything that the staff is doing here. So, anything else?
As information becomes available, we will be sending emails out, because I know some people will be going up north here sometime next month, the next 2 months. So, like Marty said, we have weekly meetings. There'll be updates coming out to status where we're at, any changes or whatever. Try to keep everybody informed. Might not be what you want to hear, but it's where we're at.
Don, as you send out the emails and the roofs are done, since many of us will be gone.
That's what you said. Give
Let
updates.
us know which ones are done.
Yep. Once he gets the inspection by off, that will be completed. Might be good as far as labor work. You can't turn it over to an inspector.
But you will let us know when it's finished.
Yes, we will.
The house number by house.
Well, I can't speak for the town. They have to come inspect it.
By the building number, they'll be fully aware when we get a final, because again, they get copies of everything. We have to turn over, again, back to all the mitigation work that we're doing. The Glades will get a copy, because those of you who want wind hits on your units with insurance, you will pass. You've got windows, doors, now you are by code, all the way through roof out. And that's a fairly significant discount. So they'll have copies of all of them. Photographs, your insurance company will never have a question on what got done. There's where they'll be. You know, they'll receive notice from us, there's a fine.
Any other questions? Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Thank
I was looking for you.
Thank you.
We're sitting along.
Okay, this is my gummy down.
He said he wants a 2-week notice.
You got enough copies, Marty?
Yeah, I'm going to have to get more of those if they want more of them. I got about 50 of these.
Marty?
We just have to have it right.
231 Memory Lane. It now says needs scope change on your new schedule.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I'm hoping that they get that done before I get there.
It means that no one approved.
And then I need the one for my,
Is that on the
insurance.
federal or something?
No.
Thanks,
That means
Rebecca. I will
basically,
reach out to you on email. That's what I need
the
for
ones that, everything that's on memory lane, this is under section 11.
Oh, you're not.
Right.
Section 11 is scheduled. Okay, you don't have one here. I'm wanting to keep this schedule and insert you what you're going to approve. Because all it is that when they did this, your roof wasn't approved. There was a dispute between the adjuster and the carrier. So I'll add that to this as soon as they give me the okay.
Okay, that's Jackie's, and mine at 153 Kenny is not listed.
Will you publish it
Kenny,
on
we're
the
doing
great
a big
site?
battle. Just settle on that one. I probably only be inserting Kenny for the next 8 days. So I'm waiting on a couple others. I'm guessing let's put it out there first. I'll probably insert that to be done sometime in May.
That's this one. I have a single
It's
copy.
still an arbitration.
Yeah.
Do you have any more copies of this, or do you need?
No, you can run those because technically,
They need to fill in the unit.
yeah, but Todd's already done this. I mean, if you have a bunch of copies of that needs to be done. So
I'll make 2 copies.
Letter for the moving expenses.
For the moving your content and everything, yeah. I'll make some copies. I'll be back.
Okay.
I don't know where we are now. I'm thinking it's not going to approve yet.
But, what can I get? We got 2 bathrooms. Only 1 bathroom has to be functioning.
yeah, Lollipop's going to come up in the next 2 weeks on schedule. I've got enough on Lollipop to do.
Have you got 158?
11 roofs. Yeah, 158. And they're on the schedule.
They're on schedule, so with
They're on the schedule. So whatever the date is, it's on the schedule. So I've got I thought they sent that out.
Still today, did you get the email? Yeah, but it wasn't on it.
There's a lot of this. They own the list.
Yeah, but these are the groups I'll be putting on within the next 3 weeks. I'll be putting on schedule, this is going to be on schedule within the next 3 weeks. Because right now I'm through the end of May. So I've got one company I'm only committing them to the blades right now. There's 19 buildings in Blades. So I'm going to move them up through these lines right now. I'm saying, no, I'm saying it's probably in mid part of May, somewhere in there. I should be. Yeah, if I can move it up, I will.
Our living area in our master bedroom. We live in there. If we, they're in the same position.
This creature comforts and whatever you guys can tolerate. As long as you, like I said, it's just one of those sometimes it gets the interior. There's going to be, in reality, it's going to be July, August, for I think the interiors of a lot of these buildings. Yeah, my goal is to be out of here right after the first of the year.
260.
You're quite well.
266 Winter Circle.
Winter Circle.
That's section 11. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you remember to approve the plan, Romero's plan?
I just got it.
Oh, okay, you walked around yesterday.
And I just got to look it over before.
We were part of the top 40 at one point.
We should have reserved the bathroom.
Oh, the memory lane.
Be out of reserve. This should be out of the operating.
Yeah, I know.
Winter Circle.
Yeah, I just got
What's the number?
266. So I'll look at it and get it back to
Because he
Denise.
said
And it's in dispute. That's the reason why I got spoke to him.
That's why
Carrier, yeah. This is what Keys is saying. This is what the carrier for the Glades is saying. Now again, these are on schedule. These are on a schedule. So with that being said, if I get the approval within the next 2 or 3 weeks, it'll fall within that same time when we're still up there.
Great, thank you very much.
Yes.
Section 11, Memory Lane, 237. It's on the schedule.
237.
On the schedule?
Yeah.
Is that a whole roof or a partial roof?
Whole roof.
Whole roof. Thank you, sir.
Marty, I had a tub, and when Velocity took out all the ceramic tile on it, they left me a big crack in it.
You won't pull it out and have to replace it?
Well, I had it already pulled out. Now, I've got an existing shower in the other bathroom that is completed. It was done with cement board, so it was all set. Do I need 2 showers set up?
If it was a shower, let me put it this way. If you have a tub and you want it to be a shower, there has to be 2 shower facilities in it. Whether it be tub, if it's got 2 bathrooms in it, whatever 2 bathrooms were need to be functional. Whether it be a tub shower, it has to have that same operation.
So I have to bring a tub back in again?
What do you want to make there?
I want to put in the shower.
Okay.
It's all been plumbed.
But the tub itself is in the unit, but it's been damaged, or is it gone?
No, I had the plumber take it out. It had a big crack in it.
So right now they're going to go after Velocity because, first in my world it's gone. Velocity threw it away. That's what happens. Yeah. Now Velocity's responsible for whatever gets replaced in there.
No, what they did was they put a big crack in it, and then they took the water jug and they laid it on it. That stayed there for a month and a half. I mean, I
Okay, stay with me here.
Okay.
If it got thrown away, Velocity's responsible.
Okay.
So whatever is back in that space is what belongs there, as long as it's a functioning water holding, water draining system.
Okay. But now whose plumber's going to put that in?
We'll have our plumbers. Are you putting a one-piece base in, or are you going to put a pan in? How are you doing it? I'm going to put a pan in. Based on what I've been told here, they're going to have us, as a 5-foot space, they're going to have us buy a fiberglass base, set it in place, the drain's
already there.
Okay, set it in place, and then put plastic walls around it, put a shower curtain up, and that's called a CO.
2 of them, I think.
So, 2 of them are going to be the same?
Yeah, the other one is up and running.
Okay. Oh, I haven't said anything bad, did I? That's a good thing. I can get carried away sometimes.
No, I've got one already up and running that they didn't take down.
Okay.
So now do I need the other one up and running for a CO?
Yeah. So we'll get together on that because, like I said, I just need to prepare watch costs because that all is a permitted process.
This is 147 Quails Nest.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't want any permits whatsoever. That building is the one that he was referring to because we've got some challenges there. So, there's one of them.
Hi, you and I spoke last week about Harrison.
Yeah.
You said you thought Palm, Turn, then Harrison, and I'm not seeing it on the list.
I'm still trying to get there. I've got 12 more roofs that's possible for where you're at.
I'm just saying that are in our section.
Yes. I'm waiting for him to bless me on something more than 3. Because I've got rooftop units. You guys are complicated because of rooftop units.
And the rats.
Yeah.
And the rats.
Well, like I said,
The rats in the water. That's the issue.
Well, I'm doing my absolute best, like I said. If he can get me, he's promised me within the next 2 weeks. I've got a crew, once the glades gets going, I can pull from glades and move them over.
So we maybe insert it?
I may insert you because I've got